Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby. Here with me is Zenzi Williams from the wonderful new play on Broadway this season, Jaja's Africa Hair Braiding. And when I think of this play, the kind of thing that comes to mind is this like great ensemble of
Mhm.
actors on stage because you just created, all of you together created such specific relationships that really popped off the stage. So how did you reach that kind of level of communication and specificity with your co-stars?
So we definitely got together. We did like a party actually, which was one of our first things that we did together. We actually built trust by doing a party at Lakeisha's house, and we all brought something, and we like potluck style, and we played games and we laughed, and I felt like that was where the trust really began. And as soon as that happened, I felt like we brought that into the room. And then, of course, with the support of Whitney and with Jocelyn and our wonderful stage manager, we just began to play in the room. That same sense of play that we had had at that party, at that potluck, we kind of brought that into the space, and it just blossomed from there, truly.
Yeah, well, clearly the party worked because it resonated
Yes,
on
I
stage.
know.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you mentioned Jocelyn, Jocelyn Bio, the playwright. One of the cool perks of working on a brand new play must be having her there, along for the ride. What was it like having that relationship? Did you get to pick her brain whenever you had a question?
For sure, for sure. She was very open and has always been, honestly. Anytime I've ever worked with her, she's been open and honest. And also just allowing us to, again, play with what's on the page. Um, it was truly something to be able to sit. Sometimes we would all sit either one-on-one or all together and discuss what was being what that particular scene was about. So it was nice to kind of have one-on-one with her. For me specifically, I remember I just needed to check in with her at one point just to be like, okay, so am I in the right realm? And she said, just keep going, because you are in the right space, you're on the right path. And so just honored that she trusted me with words, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the character you play is Bee, and she is kind of like the long-standing veteran of this braiding
Yeah.
salon. She's this great larger-than-life character. Where did you pull from? Were there any like real life people in your own life that you pull from to create her?
Well, I mean, yes, I do have larger than life aunts for sure. Um, and also I like to think that I can be a little larger than life as well, as well. But I also did a lot of research, watched a lot of YouTube videos, women from Ghana, and also had gone to many African hair braiding salons. Specifically, when I first moved to New York, I went to one on Harlem 125th Street called Apollo Beauty Land, and this woman exists there. And yes, I used all of those things to just kind of create this, as you said, larger than life, but also big-hearted woman.
Yeah. I know something for me, I did not realize that many of these styles, you are really there at that salon in the chair for the day.
Yeah,
That's a pretty intense, I feel like, relationship between customer and
for
stylist.
sure. I think that's why they say sometimes that, salons are like, therapists, therapy offices, because so much happens there, so much gets talked about. Women are vulnerable there, not only because they're getting their hair done, but they're also, so much happens throughout the course of a day. You're getting phone calls from family members and you're creating a relationship with your hairstylist, because to give your hair to someone is really, especially as a Black woman, is something so special and so sacred.
Yeah. And your character braids hair during the show. You are braiding. And did you have any of that knowledge coming in, or was that a learning process? What was that
Thanks
like?
to my mother, I definitely knew how to braid already, and also to my both of my sisters. My sister did my hair for a lot of my middle school time. She was also learning, so there were some pictures that are not so good, but it's okay. But yes, I learned how to braid, but also got more hands-on experience when we had our like braiding boot camp. So that was pretty awesome as well. Because the style of braiding that I'm used to was not something that I did on the show. I would usually do overhand. We learned underhand. So it was, yeah. Yeah.
Well, boot camp seems like it might be necessary because there were so many points where, you know, hairstyles like come and go. It's a short, a relatively short play, but there's these 12-hour processes going on. And it seems like almost like choreography. Was it difficult to time things to the dialogue?
Oh yes. I mean to be honest, I kind of had it easy compared to some of my castmates who had a lot more choreography than I did. I kind of just, because obviously her clients are kind of not so many at this point when we meet her, but yeah, a lot of my castmates had to do, I mean, turning around the chair and trying to figure out how we could create hair magic for everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about that. You mentioned her clients, and she does kind of, have herself, she sees it as someone stealing her clients, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm curious for you when you're playing it, how much of her big personality is kind of like genuine versus being an armor to sort of hide her hurt? Because we see her really hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I chose to believe everything that she was saying. I chose to invest heavily in the words that were on the page and just that B believes that she's been slighted. And also, I mean, deeply hurt. And of course, that how we cover that hurt. I mean, that's everyone covers it differently, but for B, there's this kind of larger than life, very straight to the point, almost to, hurting others sometimes. But really it's just a means of being able to survive, you
Hmm.
know, and to protect herself. So I think a lot of it was just my trying to believe that everything that she is saying is true.
Yeah. Well, and she is a survivor, I think, because
Yeah.
one of the main things that sticks with me, months after seeing this play is the ending, where B is really the person who sets aside any tiffs, any arguments, and says, we're family, we're dealing with a crisis, and, we're going to take care of each other. Can you talk about just playing that ending? What about it resonated with you the most?
Yeah, I think the vulnerability of that moment of putting down everything and also giving Marie the tools that she needs in order to go forward. I think it was for me what resonated with me is just sometimes when you're in a crisis, all of that other stuff, it just falls away. It doesn't, and what becomes more important is the person in front of you. And I felt like sisterhood. I felt like family. I felt like everything came to that moment of just, we need each other. And from here on out, this is how we're going to walk together. And that resonated with me more than anything.
Yeah. And it was a really, I think, finely executed twist in the tone, I think, because the play for much of the time is light and you're seeing this joyous group of people. And then, the rug is pulled out from under them. Was that ever a hard shift to navigate in rehearsal?
Well, I think, I mean, there were moments where, yes, it was a hard shift because we wanted to make sure that it was done smoothly.
Mhm.
However, I think because Jocelyn writes leading with love and with light and with laughter, that love is still there, even in that last final moment, specifically for sure in that last final moment. Um, so I felt like as long as we were carrying love all the way through, then we were doing our job.
Yeah. And I really, this play, I don't think I've ever seen a Broadway play that depicts, this community. I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
been in a braiding shop on Broadway before. And I think it pulled in audiences who maybe don't always feel like Broadway is like for them or they see themselves on stage. So what was that experience like with audiences to bring this particular story to Broadway?
I'll tell you one moment that I had. This young lady, she's from the Ukraine. She came up to me after the show and she said, may I hug you? I said, yes. She said, I haven't seen my mother and my family in about 2 or 3 years because of the war. And she said, I have never been in an African hair braiding salon, but I knew what that was. I knew what that I know about immigration. I know about what it is like not to be able to see members for a long period of time or have to be alone or feel isolated. And that moment, talking to her, made me realize what this story is about, what this means, how important it is, not just for my community to see, but for all communities to be able to see themselves in this. And it was just such a beautiful moment. I think about that often. I think about her and how vulnerable and how brave it was for her to share that with me. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it really pops off the stage. I mean, I have myself never been in a salon, but it just painted such a clear picture, I think, regardless of your experience, whether or not you had experienced that firsthand. Was that something on your mind from the get-go?
For sure. I mean, I think having been in the salon, and knowing, I mean, how specific the set was as well. I mean, it placed you
Yeah,
there immediately. So I think that was so helpful to it, to being able to bring everybody in. Because truly, I mean, the specifics, you could go to Harlem 125th Street right now and you will find, I mean, the pink, the
for sure.
flag, so all of that brought us right there. And then, of course, those costumes as well. And that, I mean, what more can I could say so much about the costumes. We could talk about it all day, but truly just, I feel like it brought us there immediately, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is your first time originating a role on Broadway, and did the kind of experience like an experience like that audience member you talked about, did it make you think about the future and what other like what are your kind of hopes and dreams for other stories you might tackle?
Yes, for sure. I mean, we grow up and people ask, well, what's your dream role? What's your dream role? And I think as I've come up in this career, that's shifted from dream role to dream playwright and to dream room. And Jocelyn truly is the dream playwright. I have wanted to work with her and have tried so hard to work with her as many times as I can because I think she just gets me. And I look forward to more rooms that are like the room that I just came from, which was so loving and so supportive and so creative, so playful. So that I'm looking forward to in my career. And of course, more stages where stories like this are being told is so important to me as well. So very hopeful.
Well, I always think it's good to manifest it and put it
Oh, for
into the
sure.
universe. So hopefully we
Yes.
can't wait to see what comes next. Zenzi, fantastic job in Jaja's African hair braiding, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.